Good afternoon, good morning for some of our folks on the West Coast. It's great to see everyone and welcome to our school streets focused Voices for Action. We've got folks who are coming in right now. Welcome, everybody. We've got a few housekeeping items to go through first. Uh, and so we'll jump in there. Today we'll be covering the topic of intervening to make school streets safer and healthier. We'll provide a welcome. We'll hear brief presentations for our panelists, followed by a panel discussion, and then we'll wrap up with a question and answer period. Part of the session will be recorded for future sharing. We invite you to use the chat to introduce yourself, where you're joining from, and the community organization where you work. The presentation will be in English and closed captioning is available. Participants will be muted and your video will be turned off. If you have any questions for our speakers today, please submit them using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Time permitting, we'll try to answer these at the very end of the webinar. We've got a lot to cover in just 60 minutes today. There'll be additional resources and reports and websites that are mentioned by our speakers and will be shared in the chat, and in a follow-up email will be sent after the webinar. After leaving the webinar, you'll have the option to complete a short survey, and we really appreciate your thoughtful feedback that helps to inform future sessions. In terms of translation, panelists may be speaking in either English or French today. Live caption translation is available, and instructions are being provided in the chat on how to activate that and select the language of your preference. Manuel Moreau, our technical lead, wonderful partner at the Centre d'Écologie Urbaine, will also be present today to provide additional language translation support if needed. Please note that translation is provided by the Zoom app and may not be 100% accurate. My name is Jared Kolb, and I play the role of Managing Director at Green Communities Canada. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I'd really like, in this opening, to start us off in a good way with an acknowledgement of the land that I'm on. I'm located in Toronto, a word derived from Mohawk that means where there are trees standing in the water. Today, Toronto is covered under Treaty 13, the Williams Treaties. It's the traditional territories of many First Peoples, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. The territory is part of the Dish with One Spoon wampum, a treaty where nations entered into an agreement to protect the land and responsibly care for its resources in harmony together. As settlers, newcomers, refugees, and Indigenous peoples, we have all been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. I'm mindful of the broken treaties that persist across Turtle Island today and recognize our responsibilities as treaty people to engage in a meaningful, continuous process of truth and reconciliation with all our relations. GCC is committed to advancing decolonization and anti-racism while centering the voices, leadership, and joy of Black, Indigenous, racialized, trans, and non-binary communities. While this work is underway, it's never over. It is informed by our approach to internal processes, programming, philanthropic strategy, and the future we envision together. Today's session reflects our commitment to an equitable and just climate transition. We know at GCC that sustainable and climate-ready communities are needed, and we know this need is urgent. For over 30 years, GCC, Green Communities Canada, has connected and supported community organizations across the country to accelerate climate action. We're deeply focused not just on the why we should take climate action, but also the how. How do we make the momentous shifts that are needed in such a short period of time? How do we address the very real barriers that communities, and in particular marginalized communities, face to taking action? How do we ensure our work is intersectional and inclusive? And how do we make these shifts last? Our programs are diverse and always transforming, but our goal remains the same. Invest in building the local capacity needed to accelerate ambitious climate solutions. Today, we support more than 100 organizations, and together we drive equitable and transformative change from coast to coast to coast. And we do this by providing a network for organizations to share resources and knowledge, by offering programming and services that organizations can roll out on the ground, and by providing vital funding to these organizations to lead this work. Our work at GCC focuses on three areas of climate impact: sustainable mobility, residential energy efficiency, and green infrastructure. GCC has been leading sustainable mobility programs for several decades. These programs support schools, families, and especially children to reduce fossil fuel emissions, improve air quality and traffic safety, and increase physical and mental health. GCC is a founding member of Canada Walks, Active School Travel Canada, and the Canadian Active Transportation Alliance. These coalitions work closely with the Government of Canada to support the creation of Canada's first ever national active transportation strategy and fund. We also lead the Canadian Electric School Bus Alliance, which is advocating to electrify school buses across the country by 2040. In the 1990s and in the 2000s, GCC developed the Comprehensive School Travel Planning Program and Toolkit and delivered the program in 4 provinces. In 2017, we developed the Ontario Active School Travel Program, which saw over $2 million invested in local active travel initiatives in 62 communities. And we continue to deliver school travel planning in more than 100 schools across the Greater Toronto Area. In fact, we're currently hiring for another full-time school travel planner in the Toronto area. And to learn more, visit our news page on our website. And my colleague Saida will put a link to the job post in the chat. Also, crucial to dig in on this next point, school streets. GCC's leading our nationwide active school travel or active school streets initiative, which is supporting communities across Canada to create car-free zones in front of schools. These playful spaces improve safety and health outcomes for our children and give new life to city streets. Before I pass it to my colleague Nicole and our panelists, I want to recognize some of the generous supporters of school streets, including the Public Health Agency of Canada and the BC Ministry of Transportation. And of course, our many project partners, 880 Cities, the Centre d'écologie urbain, Society for Children and Youth of BC, Université de Montréal, University of British Columbia, Queen's University, and Toronto Metropolitan University. Finally, we must never forget the amazing champions and volunteers leading safe and active transportation projects in our communities across the country. Thank you so much. Couldn't do it without you. Now I'm pleased to hand it over to our host today, Nicole Roche, GCC's Director of Sustainable Mobility. Over to you, Nicole.
Thank you, Jared, for kicking us off. So as Jared mentioned, I'm the Director of Sustainable Mobility at Green Communities Canada, and I've been involved in school streets since supporting on the Ontario School Streets pilot back in 2022. And I've been working closely with Shudan, our program manager, on the National Active School Streets Initiative since 2024. So I'm very excited to be hosting today, and I'm thrilled to introduce the fantastic panelists we have here. So first up is Pascal Angeville. Pascal joined MobiO in 2024 to develop and implement initiatives that promote sustainable mobility. Drawing on several years of experience managing environmental projects for nonprofit organizations and local communities, she now leads MobiO's mobilization team. The mobilization team designs and delivers projects that promote active transportation and sustainable mobility for businesses, municipalities, and schools. The team coordinates the Going to School on Foot or by Bike, I Can Do It campaign, which supports schools in implementing initiatives that encourage safer and more active travel. Since 2023, the campaign has also expanded to include the implementation of school streets in Gatineau, helping create safer, more welcoming environments that encourage children to walk and cycle to school. Thank you for joining us, Pascal. Merci beaucoup. Next up are Rena Mistry and Fionn Ho, who will be co-presenting today. Rena is a senior planner, active school travel coordinator with the York Region District School Board. In this role, she collaborates with school communities and a broad range of interest holders to build capacity for active school travel initiatives and enhance school zone safety. Rena has successfully led and implemented several pilot programs designed to advance active transportation and foster sustainable travel habits among students and families. She is passionate about developing innovative strategies that encourage active lifestyles while supporting healthier, safer, and more connected school communities. Rena brings more than 8 years of experience in school travel planning. Fionn is the Transportation Demand Management Coordinator at the City of Markham, with over 14 years of municipal experience in active transportation. She has managed a range of projects, including Markham's Active Transportation Master Plan, the Markham Cycles Bike Hub Program, Markham Cycling Day, and the Active School Travel Program. Fionn is currently involved in the School Streets project, delivered in partnership with the York Region District School Board to help create safer and more welcoming environments around schools. Thank you for joining us, Rena and Fionn. And lastly, we have Alicia Barek. Alicia is a school active travel planner with the City of Vancouver, bringing more than a decade of experience advancing sustainable transportation initiatives that help families walk, bike, and roll to school. She leads Vancouver's participation in the National Active School Streets Initiative and has delivered school streets at 14 schools since the city's program launched in 2021. As a mom of two, Alicia is often found riding around the city on her family's bright yellow cargo bike, sharing the freedom and joy of cycling with her kids. That's really wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Alicia. So we will begin with short presentations from all of our panelists, followed by a few questions from me, and then questions from the audience. So as a reminder, please submit your questions using the Q&A feature located in the panel at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And if you submitted questions in advance when you registered, please know that we also have those documented and we'll try to get through as many questions as possible in the time we all have together. So I'll now hand it over to Pascal to start us off.
Thank you. So today I will be representing Mobio's team, which have been implementing School Street project in Gatineau since 2023. Mobio is the Centre d'Expertise en Mobilité. You can translate by Transport Management and Association for the Outaouais and Abitibi-Témiscamingue regions. Our mission is to promote and support sustainable mobility. To achieve this, we focus on two main areas of work: consulting, and second, we develop projects to encourage more sustainable transportation choices. As part of our missions, Mobio has been leading the Going to School on Foot or by Bike, I Can Do It. You can translate, c'est à l'école à pied ou à vélo, je suis capable, since 2016. A school-based initiative that aims to promote active transportation, educate children about active transportation safety, and improve safety around school by reducing traffic. Since 2023, we have also incorporated School Street temporarily into the campaign. We have implemented 5 school streets with Lac des Fées school, 2 with Saint-Rédempteur, and 1 with Monseigneur Charbonneau. Indeed, this year, thanks to funding from Green Communities and City of Gatineau, we are able to implement 2 school streets in 2026. The Charbonneau School was the first one in May, and the second one will take place in this fall. It gave us the opportunity to put into practice what we learned during the NACI program, and the school street was led by a parent volunteer and the school administration with support of from Mobio. The very first step was when the parent volunteer contacted Mobio. Is why we chose this school to launch the project. After, we organized the School Street project in 3 main steps. The first one is the planning and design. During this phase, we defined the project and submitted a street closure permit request to the City of Gatineau. It's a mandatory. And the second step was implementation and documentation. We worked closely with the parent in charge of the project, the school, and the community partners to co-develop the project for the week, because the goal was to have 1 activity each day during the School Street week. We also prepared a communication plan, including a press release to help promote the initiative. The third step was the evaluation. This included coordinating volunteers and providing on-site support. We also analyzed data and the results of the consultation to better understand the overall impact of the initiative. Our program for this week was the first day, 3 drop-offs area 3 drop-off areas were planned for parents who brought their children to school by car, encouraging them to walk the rest of the way to the school. The second day, a bike repair station was available for minor repairs. It was led by our partner Raka Basic, and front and rear lights, as well as back bells, were also distributed. A little advice: give the bells out at the end of the day, because the children love ringing the bell. The third day, 3 walking school buses were organized and led by classroom teachers, and the smoothie bike was used to serve juice upon arrival. And on the final day, a student consultation was held. We also launched the I Can Do It challenge. It's an initiative in the campaign encouraging the students to travel to school using active transportation, and students who participated were congratulated with a pins. So during this week, we faced a few challenges. The first one, we have to change the dates because we needed to make sure that our parent volunteer would be available. This meant that we had to submit a new road closure permit request the first time in March, even though our initial request was in February. The timeline was quite tight, as the city requires 3 months notice for road closure requests. And the second one, some residents were unfamiliar with the project, so after receiving an information letter, we took the time to answer their questions. It's important to plan enough time for this communication. And finally, to provide additional support, Mobio staff and teachers helped with the activities and supervision because we didn't have enough volunteers. But there were also several successes. First, we had an highly motivated parents who supported us during the entire project. We also had great partners who helped make the activities more engaging and fun for the children. And we also saw some excellent results in the final count. On the last day, we recorded a 90% increase in the number of children arriving by active transportation compared with our initial count on May 11. And more importantly, we saw some longer-term changes. In total, more than 9% changed their travel habits to use active transportation more often. The consultation showed that the school street was perceived as a safer and more attractive environment for children, and that many of them would like to see the closure of road every day of the year. And for our next steps, this fall, we have 3 main objectives. The first one, we want to recruit a new school. Second, we plan to offer one activity each day because it was a great experience. And finally, we want to continue exploring new ideas from partners across Canada, maybe such as the active transportation tracking booklet you can see on the slide. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope my presentation was clear enough. And you can see on the photo is the success of our bike repair during the school street. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pascal. We'll now pass it over to Rena and Fionn.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fionn Ho, and I'm with the City of Markham. I'm joined today by Rena Mistry from York Region District School Board. The School Streets Initiative is a partnership program between the city and the school board, and is part of our broader active school travel efforts. Today, we'll walk you through our School Streets journey at Black Walnut Public School, which took place this spring. Our presentation is organized into 4 sections. First, we'll provide some background on Markham and explain how we selected the school. We'll then discuss the road closure approach and the implementations. We'll then cover our communications and engagement efforts. Finally, we'll share a few key takeaways. So Markham is a municipality within York Region located in the Greater Toronto Area, as highlighted in yellow on the map. We currently have a population of about 365,000 residents. Our active school journey began in 2010, and over the years, the program has grown and evolved into a formalized program. This year, we're thrilled to launch our second School Streets initiative at Black Walnut Public School. In determining the appropriate school for this project, we evaluated a number of factors. First, we looked at equity considerations, including demographics and low-income distributions. We also examined walkability, and this school stood out as 95% of the students live within a 10-minute walk. We also have strong support from school staff and family. We also consider school population to ensure the project have a meaningful impact. Finally, we reviewed the site layout and road access. So based on these criteria, Black Walnut Public School was selected for the School Streets project.
Planning for our School Streets project was well underway, and we were following a similar path based on previous experience. However, partway through the process, we learned that the city of Markham had introduced new road closure requirements. To obtain the necessary road permit and move the project forward, we would now need to incorporate HVM measures, requiring us to adapt our plans and approach. What is HVM, you must be wondering? It refers to hostile vehicle mitigation, which is the use of physical barriers and traffic control tools made to stop fast-moving or heavy vehicles from crashing into public spaces and events. We conducted research into HVM and learned that there are different types and measures that can be used. For example, it could include barriers like dump trucks, police vehicles, or specially designed units. We went through a number of scenarios as well as consultation with York Regional Police to understand what the best protocol may be for our project. In the end, the city had already approved types that we had to use. However, the cost was quite high. We took some time to understand whether or not we could even proceed. That is when we came up with a two-phased approach. Each phase was 9 days long. Phase 1 was a single-lane road closure of the southbound lane of John Allen Cameron Street. It required a barricade on both ends of the closure and traffic cones along the center median. Vehicles traveling southbound between 8:45 and 9:15 a.m. were restricted access. Those traveling north could access the road, however, could not access the drop-off loop. No stopping or parking was permitted on the open lane. Phase 2 was a full road closure to all vehicles traveling on John Allen Cameron Street between 8:45 and 9:15 a.m. The closure was marked with HVM, traffic cones, and signage. The John Allen Cameron, as you can see from this visual, is the street that is right directly in front of the school's drop-off loop, as well as the parking lot. Here is an image of our traffic control plan. You can see the extent of all the measures that were required beyond the school street closure that we had to have in order to secure a permit to operate our pilot. Prior to launching the pilot, we secured school council support and introduced an active school travel program to build awareness and foster an AT culture at the school. The program featured monthly initiatives leading up to the pilot to help students and promote them to engage in active transportation. To support the launch of the pilot, we implemented a comprehensive outreach plan that included multiple letters to school families, booth at a school event, mobile signs, mail out to almost 140 households surrounding the school, and door-to-door engagement with residents directly adjacent to the closure. We have a dedicated website and a detailed FAQ page. Those were also available to provide information and answer any community questions. During the pilot, the school continued to keep families informed through regular reminders, and we hosted activation events to encourage participation. Were there things we could have improved upon? Absolutely. This takes us to our next slide, lessons learned.
So today, we want to share a few key takeaways from our implementation. First, relates to the sustainability of road closure. As discussed, the current road closure with HVM device involves significant cost and logistical efforts. Going forward, we need to evaluate whether this approach is appropriate based on further review and discussions. Secondly, we found that activation on street proved to be more challenging than expected. Morning arrival is naturally very busy, and with only a 15-minute window, we faced challenges to engage with the school community. We also noticed that many students and families were hesitant about playing on the street, even when the road was fully closed to traffic. On a positive note, the project reinforced the importance of being adaptive and creative in problem solving. We were open-minded, flexible, and willing to pivot through our challenge and ultimately enable us to achieve the project goals. And finally, the strong partnership between the city and the school board was key not only to the school streets initiatives, but also the success of the broader active school travel program. We're very grateful to have developed such a unique and effective collaborations to further our ASC work. And this concludes our presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Fionn and Rena. We will now go to Alicia.
Hi, everyone. I'm looking forward to sharing about the City of Vancouver's School Street program today. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge that the City of Vancouver is situated on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam Indian Band, Squamish Nation, and Tsleil-Waututh Nation. The School Streets program in the City of Vancouver is delivered in partnership with the Vancouver School Board and was first piloted in 2021 at 3 schools. During pickup and drop-off times, one street is closed to motor vehicles for a period of 30 to 75 minutes. During this time, no motor vehicles may enter or exit the street, however, parked vehicles may remain. The streets are closed using traffic barriers and signs, which are put up by volunteers or paid staff. And to date, 14 schools have participated in the program. As one of 4 Level Up communities in Nasse, we are implementing 2 year-round school streets. Both will take place from September to June and use the paid leader model, where paid staff lead the day-to-day implementation of the program and are responsible for setting up, monitoring, and taking down the school street to maintain safety on the street. Today, I will focus on sharing lessons learned from our first year-round school street, which just wrapped up at Lord Selkirk Elementary. Selkirk is a school in the Cedar Cottage neighborhood in East Vancouver. East 22nd Avenue was selected as a school street location because it sees a high volume of shortcutting. Along the block, there are 3 homes, an intersecting alley, and a vacant lot with a major construction project taking place next door. The school street ran every day during the 2025-26 school year for 30 minutes during drop-off and 45 minutes during pickup. Our first lesson is to start small and scale up. Selkirk first piloted a school street in spring of 2023 for 4 weeks, and since then has steadily been growing their program. So transitioning to a daily year-round school street was the natural progression for this site, and having the funding to hire paid staff to lead implementation made this feasible. By slowly building momentum for the program, we were able to bring the school community and neighborhood along and received relatively minimal pushback from the community this school year. There are several program partners involved in this program, each with a different role to play. To ensure that the program ran smoothly, we held monthly project meetings with this group. This was key to responding to concerns, making small program adjustments when necessary, and planning activations. I also want to highlight that having a principal champion is key to success. We were so fortunate to work with a principal who is a strong active travel champion and who had experience running school streets at 2 school sites already. The impact of the Selkirk year-round school street is being evaluated as part of the national research study being done for Nasse. Dr. Mariana Brusoni at UBC is leading this research for Vancouver schools. Baseline and implementation data was collected at 2 points in time and included a variety of evaluation methods. This data is now being analyzed on a national scale, so I don't have the program outcomes to share with you today, but we look forward to learning more as the research progresses. Very few schools have capacity to run a year-round school street with parent volunteers, which is why having paid staff to implement the delivery was essential. The city contracted a nonprofit organization, the Society for Children and Youth of BC, or SCY, to hire and manage paid staff. SCY recruited 2 community members who led the day-to-day implementation of the school street. Having reliable, consistent staff was really valuable in ensuring correct setup, clear communication about any challenges or issues, and in creating a safe and welcoming space for families. These staff also recorded daily logs of the number of students and parents staying to linger on the street before and after school. Here in Vancouver, we're fortunate to have relatively mild winters, and we saw students out on the street year-round. We do see some seasonal differences in participation rates, with numbers increasing after spring break. From November to June, the PAC hosted 5 activations on the street on the last Friday of the month. On these days, the afternoon school street was extended an additional 30 minutes. Students helped generate the ideas for a different theme each day. These novel days entice families to stay and spend time together on the street and were an important community building element for the program. SCY staff also had a play box on site with simple play equipment that was brought out every afternoon. Having items such as bubbles, skipping ropes, and games made the space more enjoyable and inviting for kids to spend time. We found that after school was busier on the street than before school across all seasons. And while it's tempting to judge the success of the program on how active the street is, it's important to remember that even on days with low participation, the program is still a success since it's improving safety for families arriving and leaving school. With all of our participating schools, we provide additional program opportunities to maximize the benefit of the school street and further encourage active travel. At Selkirk, several overlapping programs took place, including a parent-led bike bus, cycling education for grade 6 and 7 students, and participation in Bike to School Week. At Selkirk, students were part of brainstorming activation themes each month and helped to make promotional posters at the school. At other school street sites, we have trained student volunteers who assist the adults with setup and takedown of the street and are responsible for the play equipment. There are likely lots of other ways to involve students, and we're just scratching the surface here. Our bright pink school street communication materials have a clear brand and are easily recognizable at schools across the city. We use signs and communication materials around the school to raise awareness about the program. In addition, we mail out resident notification letters in advance and work with the school principal to send out regular updates and communication to school families. Having clear procedures and guidelines helps to address risk and liability for the program and supports the creation of a safe and inclusive space for students and families. We've developed a volunteer training video that goes over how to set up and take down a school street, safety protocols, and what to do in case of emergencies. We also have printed materials on site. Despite clear signage on site, we continue to experience vehicle exit requests on a weekly basis. So it's important to train your volunteers and staff on how to approach these exits. At Selkirk, some of the requests came from residents on the block, but the majority came from construction workers from a nearby project. We had an average of 8 vehicles escorted out of the closure every month, and interestingly, this number stayed relatively consistent throughout the year, and we saw equal exit requests in the morning and afternoon. Lastly, not everyone will be supportive of your school street. Change can be hard, and it's normal to have some community members express frustration about the program. Have key messages prepared in advance if community members approach staff on site. At our schools, we encourage staff to redirect comments and questions and concerns to the city's project team, and we ensure that safety protocols are in place in case of escalating behaviors, especially from drivers. So what's next for school streets in Vancouver? I'm happy to announce that the city will continue to run a daily year-round school street at Selkirk Elementary for the upcoming school year. We're also preparing to launch our second NASI school at Hastings Elementary, where we ran a successful 2-week pilot in the spring, and we'll be launching a daily program in September. Lastly, our annual spring program will continue this year. Our expression of interest process will open in the fall for any schools interested in participating next spring. So if there are any curious schools from Vancouver tuning in today, I encourage you to check our website in September for more information. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alicia, and fantastic presentations from everyone. Thank you so much. So before we get to questions from the audience, I have a few questions myself. So I'd like to hear from each of the panelists. What are the top positive impacts of your school street that you have seen? Do you have any examples of case studies or stories where a student, family member, school staff, etc., have shared how the school street has made their school journey or even their life better? So maybe I'll go to Pascal first.
Yes. I think for me, the most positive impact is the children motivation and smiles because they are really curious the first time. They're not quite sure what's going on and are hesitant to venture in the street, like Markham's experience. Then by the last day, they are already ask us, are we going this again next week? So for me, I think it's a good support and the children so that with very a lot of pleasure.
Wonderful. And Rena and Fion?
Yeah, I think our School Streets initiative had a number of positive impacts, both in terms of safety and overall well-being. We did notice a reduction in traffic congestion and vehicle related, pardon me, chaos around the school, and just an overall sense of calmness. So for some of the mornings that we were out there, I definitely had some interactions with families and parents, and I know from a few parents I heard that they just felt like that morning rush was no longer there, and that that sense of calmness on the street just like overall led to a more sort of peaceful start to the day. And then I heard that from a few parents actually, and also from the school principal and VP when we were having a chat with them. They were mentioning that it just felt different. The students felt different in the school. They felt that they were more positive overall. There was just a different kind of energy in the school. And overall, like just that a lot of them were more prepared for their day and even the behavior. They just saw a change in behavior. And I do think like that morning chaos around the school zone, it's energy, right? It's chaotic energy. But when we bring kids in a calm space, I do think that that reflects upon how their day goes. I think Fiona also had something she
Yeah,
wanted
I'll
to.
just add to the point about creating a calmer environment in the morning. So one of our project member spoke to the crossing guard near the school. The crossing guard served the community for a long time, close to 20 years, and he noted the change of the environment around the school. It was a lot more calm. It was less stressful. So he was quite surprised with the implementation and outcome of the project.
Fantastic. Yeah, great outcomes and stories. And over to you, Alicia.
Yeah, we hear lots of positive feedback in our annual surveys that we run for the program. But again and again, one of the top themes that we hear about is that the program fosters community building and opportunities to gather. And this wasn't initially one of our kind of core objectives of School Streets, but we realized quickly that this was really key and it became one of our primary goals. So I've heard numerous stories of parents meeting their kids' friends' parents for the first time on the school street. Last spring in our surveys, about two-thirds of parents reported taking time to socialize on the street before or after school. And we also hear stories about kids interacting and playing with kids who aren't in their typical social circles or even in their grade. And there's one story in particular that stuck with me. At one of our schools, Gordon Elementary, they have a big street hockey culture there. And so every morning and after school, the kids drag out the nets and bring out the hockey equipment. And it's just like a really lovely game that happens. And one time, one of the volunteering parents pointed out her son to me and mentioned that her son had autism and it was typically really challenging for him to connect with other peers, but he loved hockey. And she was just so grateful to see him kind of playing and interacting with kids in other grades, and that it really built like his sense of belonging at the school. So I was like, what a wonderful, story. And that's just one family, right? We hear lots of stories. Um, Another theme that comes through is like independent mobility. So yes, we want to see more students walking and biking to school, but hearing stories about parents feeling comfortable letting siblings walk together, knowing that that last block around the school is less chaotic and safer. I had a parent in a survey this year say that their their kindergarten student was kind of waking up early and excited to get out of the house every day, and it made their morning routine easier, sorry. And they felt comfortable. They lived across the street from the school, but they then felt comfortable like letting their child leave the gate and go to school independently. And even though that was only a block for a kindergartner, that was a really big deal. So, yeah, lots of wonderful stories.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. So, what would you tell someone who was interested in bringing school streets to their community? We have about 100 people on the call here today who are probably very interested in school streets. So, there's lots that can be said, but maybe it's encouraging them or even some of the first steps or some of the surprises. Just what would you say to some of the folks wanting to bring this to their community? Maybe I'll go reverse order and go Alicia.
Sure. I would say give it a try. There's a lot of planning work that's needed in advance of the school street, and I think Pascal and Rena and Fionn did a great job kind of outlining what that looks like in a build-up. So give yourself at least 6 months lead time, longer if it's your first school street. And if you come across an obstacle when planning, there is now a wonderful network of people across the country who have experience running school streets. So please reach out to other communities. While every community runs school streets slightly differently, there are a lot of kind of common lessons that can be learned across the different cities and communities. And if I can just add like one more thing that I love about school streets that I hope that you would get to experience in your community is that yes, it takes months and months of planning, but once it's happening and you're actually stood on a school street, it seems like such a simple intervention, right? It feels calm and joyful, and it for schools who have been running in the program for a long time in Vancouver, it just feels like a natural part of the streetscape around the school. And so I think it's well worth kind of the planning effort required.
Fantastic. It's worth it. And
Mhm.
yes, if anyone's had the opportunity to experience a school street in person, they really can be magical and joyful and yeah, really great to create that in as many communities as we can.
Mhm.
Over to you, Rena and Fionn.
I so same, I'm gonna probably be a little bit repetitive, but yeah, definitely do it if you have the opportunity. It's a really rewarding experience. It does require a lot of strategic planning, lots of patience, and I would say strong partnership. Fionn did mention in our presentation about our partnership, and I really truly feel that this partnership has led to a lot of the success we've had around our school streets. A lot of things a lot of challenges that we've had, we because of the positions that we're in and the community and the network that we have, we've been able to sort of more seamlessly get through those challenges. And yeah, I would also like to just build on the fact that I think that if you're going to do it, it's very important that you have the community buy-in. That's a really important piece. So not just the school, but make sure that the admin are on board for something like this, and that they're willing to, they don't necessarily have to be the ones on the street, but just make sure that they're willing to put in some of the work and they understand the project clearly. It is important to have that parent buy-in and staff buy-in as well. And I think that having that sort of group and that sort of I want to say support will help you succeed through a project like this. And just one more thing I'd like to say for us, it's been really important that we've had some sort of AST program at the schools that we've decided to work at. So I think that if you are planning to launch a program like this, to try to build a bit of that AT culture and start some kind of programming or initiatives around AST so that it's not just kind of like uh, all of a sudden we're closing the roads. Because I do think that it helps to build the culture, and even with the parents, it kind of brings a little bit more security knowing that you're already working with the school. You're able to interact with them a little bit more, and they're familiar with the concepts and the ideas.
A really great point. Fionn, did you have anything to add?
No, I think Rena sums it up really well for us. Thank you.
Thanks. And Pascal.
Alors, je vais la répondre en français. Je suis désolée,
Très
mais
bien.
mes réponses étaient déjà apprises. Mais en fait, c'est que la rue école, ce qui a beaucoup marché, nous, de notre côté, c'est que les écoles qui ont testé des rues écoles, maintenant, quand on va faire une autre activité avec eux, ils se demandent pourquoi la rue est pas fermée. On a d'autres activités avec eux ou qui ne nécessitent pas de fermer la rue comme I Can Do It Challenge. Et en fait, les parents maintenant demandent, ils se sont tellement habitués qu'ils disent mais pourquoi c'est pas fermé, c'était mieux avant. Donc vraiment, essayez-le et vous allez voir qu'après, il y a un changement qui se fait. Puis pareil, nous à Mobio, on a créé un guide pour les écoles qui souhaitent en fait mettre en place une rue école. Donc n'hésitez pas à aller voir notre site web.
Fantastic. We can include that website in the chat for reference.
Yes.
Great, thank you so much. We'll jump into questions specific to each community. So Alicia for City of Vancouver, the city has implemented 6 school streets during the 2025-2026 school year. What was the process behind the city turning the school streets program into a reoccurring annual program? And how have partnerships supported the expansion of your school streets program?
So after the success of our initial pilot in 2021, it was clear that there was a desire to continue the program at the 3 participating schools and expand to new communities. School Streets is part of a broader school active travel program, and we're fortunate to have various staff that are dedicated to school active travel. So we were able to prioritize this program. And we first tried to scale from a 1-month spring program to a daily year-round program with parent volunteers at those 3 schools, and quickly learned that's not sustainable for most school communities. So we had to kind of take a pause and look at what was feasible within our context. We, of course, learned from other communities at the time. Kind of school streets were really big in Europe, but we have different kind of tools in our toolbox here. And because we require people to be there to implement the road closures, we really leaned into the success of that spring program. And we worked to expand that to new schools. So we now have about 5 to 6 schools participating for a month every spring. And for these communities, the program is like an annual event or campaign that the community embraces and looks forward to. Of course, we have a few schools that are kind of ready to take it to the next level. And when different funding opportunities become available, we're able to offer kind of a longer term program. But we kind of really, the spring program is the main school street program for us. And then in terms of partnerships, one of our key partners is the Nonprofit Society for Children and Youth of BC, or SCY. And this partnership started actually when they offered play streets on our school streets. And so now we have an ongoing kind of partnership with them to offer play streets. So one day, one afternoon a week at each of the participating spring schools, SCY brings staff and various play equipment, and the closure is extended for an additional 30 minutes. And this is like a crowd favorite. So for many schools, this is the highlight of the week for them, and kids are kind of looking forward to them coming back week after week. And then for a number of years, we've been trying to figure out how to make the program more accessible to schools in equity-seeking communities who might not have parent volunteers, with parents with time to volunteer. And so last year, we piloted our first paid leader school where we again contracted SCY to hire and manage staff to implement the daily closure. And that's been really successful. It kind of frees up interested parents to plan activities on the street, but it relieves the school from the burden of filling like 80 volunteer shifts to run the program for a month. So that's been really successful. And then lastly, our partnership with Vancouver School Board has been really key to success for this program, as kind of we've heard in Markham as well. And the School Street program has been adopted as a school-sponsored program. So that means that the principal is ultimately kind of responsible for overseeing the program when it's happening on the school. And any parent or student volunteers are considered school board volunteers. So we work within kind of existing school board protocols for them. And we've been able to recently create a memorandum of understanding between the city and the school board specific to school streets that kind of outlines our roles and responsibilities. That's been signed off by senior leaders. So it kind of just gives the program that extra stamp of kind of approval, and people feel okay about like the risk and liability pieces for the program. So that's been really important as well.
Fantastic. Great learnings out of Vancouver. Hey, so for Markham, it was notable in your presentation the hostile vehicle mitigation HVM policy, which was recently required for school streets in the city of Markham. So how do you foresee this policy impacting future school streets programs in the city, potentially both positively and negatively?
Thank you. So I guess I can start. We want to just clarify quickly that the HVM requirements currently just a requirement to get permits. It's not yet a policy that the city has adopted, but this HVM requirement is required for all events that require closure, road closure across the city. So it is becoming a more prominent requirement across the city. And in terms of the positive impact of HVM, it provides, it is a physical barrier that stops vehicles from entering the enclosed space. So there's that sense of security that it's providing. Because of that, it increases confidence of parents and community members to let their children walk or bike to school. We did receive feedback from talking to the principal that she felt that it was really safe to have the streets closed and also have the physical barriers down. Overall, reduce liability and risk on the project's team because of these extra security measures.
Yeah, so along with, I guess those were some of the positive things with the HVM, and I'll speak a little bit more to the negative points. So unfortunately, it is something that is resource heavy in terms of you require a permit. The cost of HVM seems to be pretty high at this time. And you do, well, we do anyways, require an outside organization to deliver and actually put the units out. And they're also very heavy. So even when we were thinking, could the city buy them? Could we have people do it themselves? No, like they're very heavy. So it wouldn't necessarily be something that we could do ourselves. It's labor intensive in the terms of or sense of, I should say, setup and monitoring. And then again, going back to the contractor piece, like, yeah, you're relying on this contractor, this outside party to be there every morning, every day at pickup. If they're running late or there's an issue, then your street's going to be not closed. So there's those type of things. The other things we were thinking about a little bit more broadly were there are limited companies that offer this type of service. So we are limited to like where we could even purchase and rent this type of technology, I would say, for the road. So that could be an issue. And given like the nature of this type of project, that it's like a short window in the morning and a short window in the afternoon, are there going to be lots of companies in the future who would even want to take on a project like this because they, have to pay for a very limited amount of time to be at a school, and that requires, X amount of staffing and gas and all those types of things. We also felt like, the HVM that we used, it didn't look so uninviting, but HVM generally can be very uninviting. So, like having two big dump trucks on the side of on either ends of the roads, you could imagine what that might look like. And even having, maybe police cruisers on both ends, I think sometimes might just not give the right message. Although like they're there to help, it could also just be more uninviting to the street, like, and people may not be as comfortable using it, thinking that something may be wrong. Although they do provide, safety and enhanced safety, I should say, to the road closure. And then just because of all these points, I guess it's just we're finding it's not sustainable. If we have to continue to use HVM. We're not sure that we could sustain because of the cost. And so as we're going to be gearing up to our second School Streets project, we are trying to look for different ways. Are there other even HVM tools that the city may consider adding that could work and are, more sustainable, less resource intensive, and sort of all those negative points that I mentioned.
Great, thanks for sharing. We'll wrap up with Pascal. So the city of Gatineau appears to be interested in pursuing a permanent school street implementation after the proven success of how previous school streets have gone in the city. So how is Mobio involved in this process of securing permanent school streets in Gatineau? And what are you most excited to see from the transition into permanent school streets?
So we are working with the city of Gatineau and le Centre d'écologie urbaine to develop an action plan for implementing a permanent school in Gatineau. And we hope to continue this collaboration, realize this action plan. But now the next step is to find financial aids. What is particularly exciting is that we are launching this process in the Ottawa region. It's better, it's an inspiration for Ottawa too, but especially that we are implementing a project directly requested by students. For example, in the Lac des Fées school, the students themselves brought their request to the municipal council. They want a school street in front of our school. There is already strong support from the younger generation who are ready to take the next step. So the engagement of the committee is very important and it's ce qui porte vraiment le projet.
Very exciting. All right. Well, we are nearly at time. So what I'm hoping to do here is we have a few concluding statements, but we have a number of Q&As in the chat. So I'm wondering if the speakers, as I'm giving some of the concluding statements, if you're able to look through some of the questions in the Q&A, there's an option to type answer. So if any are pertaining to your school street or you feel like you can readily answer just in written form, then I encourage you to do so. But very sorry to anyone who submitted their questions that we weren't able to get to today. But hopefully a lot of the discussion was able to answer some of your questions or present new information that you didn't know to ask about. So just to wrap up for today, the National Active School Streets Initiative team is currently accepting applications to join our community of practice. So the community of practice will provide people with an opportunity to continue your learning about school streets and how you could implement one in your community. So the application will be available in both English and French, with the French version coming very soon. So if you are accepted into the NACI community of practice, you will receive an honorarium for your participation, join a network of 60+ practitioners from across the country working to implement school streets, including all of our wonderful panelists here today, always very helpful to exchange knowledge. You'll receive additional office hours support from program technical leads and also receive access to a variety of resources, such as previous community of practice content and materials. So the deadline for this is September 18th at the end of the day. So if this session today was really inspiring to you and you would love to bring school streets to your community, then this is a really immediate step that you can take to hopefully be welcomed into the broader movement across the country. So if you have any questions, then please reach out to Green Communities Canada. We'll be happy to answer them. So that link has been dropped into the chat, so I hope you'll go check that out. So thanks everyone for joining today, and especially the presenters for their really important work and also their generosity in sharing their results and lessons learned from their projects with all of us. So please look out for the follow-up survey and email with resources. There were lots of links being shared, so we'll compile all of that into one follow-up. And we hope you'll apply to join the community of practice if you aren't already involved. So thanks again and take care, everyone. We hope we'll see you at our next Voices for Action and any other future School Streets events that we're able to put on.